And welcome to Nug Life Podcast. I am your host, Dan Weststein, and that is my host, Santiago Salazar. We are here. I know we are definitely talking about Nuggets. I know we're both kind of adorned in some other colors here, but I promise you we are here to talk about Nuggets. We will talk about some Broncos later, but right now we are here to talk about your Nuggets. Let's go ahead and jump in so we can get to that, and then we'll get to the mock draft later. So first up, on this road trip, they started out Nuggets versus Raptors. Nuggets were trying to go in, get the sweep. Unfortunately, didn't quite work out that way. Are the Raptors maybe closer to taking that next step than we thought, or was it just another bad night for Denver?
Well, the Raptors got his name Pirtle,
Yeah.
and that's always been a guy who's always played Jokic at a high level compared to anybody else in the league. So, that's always been a factor. You remember Greg Popovich, he was on, and I don't remember what trade he was involved with that landed him in the Raptors, but every time the Nuggets played the Spurs, which was, more frequent than playing the Raptors, you noticed him a little more. That's where I kind of noticed, his play and how efficient he was when the Nuggets played the Raptors, defensively holding Jokic to, I would say, a light night. But there's nothing like to Jokic. You just look at the box score.
Yeah, 100% agree on that. I think it was a combination team still in a bit of the doldrums of this late season swoon that they seem to be had got themselves stuck in. Seem to be they're kind of climbing their way out, but this was really in the throes of it. So I really chalked this up a little bit more to the Nuggets just having a bad night and the Raptors just having some of the right pieces, like you said, with Jakob Pertl, with Van Vliet. Just for some reason, nobody can keep a body on that kid for whatever reason. Again, I know we said it before, but I think he's one of the more underrated point guards, and he's just so wiggly. You just can't get a grasp of it. It's like trying to grab water with your bare hands. He always seems to slip through. Sorry, let me turn that off. Sorry,
Yeah, he made an
caught me
All-Star
off guard
game,
there.
an All-Star appearance.
Mm-hmm.
No, my bad. He had an All-Star appearance last year, Fred Van Vliet. So he's
Yes.
capable. He is one of those stars that is respected around the league.
Yeah, and when I say underrated, I'm not saying by his peers because obviously they have nothing but respect for him. When you hear any of the Nuggets or any of his other opponents talk about him, got nothing but glowing things to say. I'm saying more of in the media sphere like us. He just seems to be one of those guys that's just a little bit overlooked. You don't really hear him being talked about when people are talking about the top point guards in the league, but I definitely think he needs to be in that conversation. I mean, he had 36 points in 37 minutes. That's about as efficient as you could possibly be, especially when you're the smallest dude on the
And he's a
court.
bucket.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
But
walking
speaking
bucket
of
for sure.
efficiency, yeah, I think the biggest problem with the Nuggets is that their efficiency has went down. Even Nikola's usually right around a point per minute when he's on the court. He was at 34 minutes, 28 points, and I think that's been the one thing that I don't think enough people have talked about is the efficiency in the scoring. The Nuggets are still scoring; they're not scoring nearly as much as they used to because of that lack of efficiency. Before this whole swoon, they were not only just one of the better shooting teams in the league with an almost 40% 3-point percentage, over almost 60% from the field overall, but their efficiency. It wasn't just that they were just jacking up a bunch of shots and hoping that they fell. It was just consistently buckets after buckets after buckets for these guys. And this whole little swoon they've been under, they're just not getting the buckets like they were. And I think it was frustrating them to the point that they were trying to press harder. And so they were throwing up more shots, which caused them to be even less efficient. And just it's kind of snowballed from there. Am I onto something here, or do you see something different?
I think the biggest key and no one would disagree, is the defense. The defense has just been atrocious. I saw a stat that it was the worst defensive efficiency over a 4 game period by a team this season, giving up about what 125 per game. And
Yeah.
yeah, you can have an awful night, but when you're scoring 110 and 120, you expect to win the game. Now it shouldn't be you have to score 130 or 140 points, you know, to go and have to even have a chance at winning. You're giving up 125 points a night.
Yeah, and to your point, before this whole little swoon they had, the 4 game losing streak, and then I think it's like 7 out of 10 at one point. Um, they oh man, I just completely lost my train of thought there. That really just left my head in the middle of me speaking. You gotta love live. You gotta love live TV. This is what happens, right? Like I
Dude,
completely forgot where I was
uh,
going with that. What was your last point? I am so sorry. My
oh
brain just
man, now
completely
you
froze
got
on me.
me on a different track.
Oh
Oh,
man,
just
I
the
just
fact
done jacked you up.
that giving up 125 a night.
Oh, yes, sorry. Okay. Thank you. That's actually perfect. That completely put my head. Before this whole swoon, they had only had one loss before this whole swoon of scoring 120 points or more. Since this game or since this whole swoon happened, they've lost 3 in that short span. So definitely the defensive efficiency mixed with the offensive inefficiency, I think both of those things have kind of turned themselves into this whirlpool of mediocrity that's really kind of sucked the Nuggets into it. They have got to break free. I think they started to show those things in the last couple of games, but I think this game was a real big encapsulation of just both of those things coming to a head. The offensive efficiency being so poor, then adding in the defensive efficiency and those things just feeding off of each other, I think really has led into the extremely poor play that we've seen recently.
Definitely, definitely. So
So
Nuggets, they playing Philly tonight, so we can see hopefully something implemented in that.
a true test, yes. And the reason why that this is a bit different for y'all don't see the same background that y'all are normally seeing is I've literally just flipped everything down around 180 degrees because after we're done here, we're going to be doing a mock draft, and I want to be able to watch the Nuggets game while we're doing the mock draft, and I'll do a little bit of multitasking while we're doing that as well because the Nuggets game will be coming on right after this. We're essentially doing a pregame at this point, recapping everything that's happened over these last couple of weeks. But
A little bit of
another thing that's really been bugging me
live
with
commentary.
I don't know about live commentary. I just figured I'd have it on in the background and just update people as we're going. Like I didn't want I can't do live commentary and a mock draft at the same time. I don't know how well that would work
Yeah,
out. But
yeah,
back to the Nuggets
yeah.
and things that are worrying is that KCP has really started to struggle offensively. Like he's still got a like almost 40%, or no, I think it's actually like 44% from 3, but everything else seems to have just fallen off the table for him. He still seems to be given a little bit of hustle on the defensive end, but is he starting to slip to the point where we need to start talking about that starting role again? Oh,
Well,
did we
he's been
lose him?
definitely one dimensional, and that's in the three ball, which is if your player's gonna be one dimensional type of game you really want them to have in today's NBA at a long range. Having a long range game. That's been the only thing that's really been working for him this season. Uh, Bruce Brown's been more versatile, three-level scorer, can facilitate. Definitely more worthy, I think, come playoff time for more of a consistent starting role compared to the regular season where KCP was coming in the starting five.
Yeah, I think I'm to that point as well, and it's really gotten to the point where they pretty much split right down the middle when it comes to minutes on the floor. Like in this game, for example, Contavious had 29 minutes while Bruce Brown had 22. I say just flip that. Just flipping that, just those extra 7 or 8 minutes, I think, with Brown on the floor would make a marked difference with the starting unit. And I think that his just infectious energy, unlike that with KCP, when KCP is struggling, you kind of see it drag the team down. He doesn't really hustle quite as much. He's still getting steals and does a few things on the defensive end, but it just doesn't seem to permeate the roster the way it does when Bruce Brown hits the floor. There's just something about that kid that when he hits the floor, it ratchets everybody up an extra notch. And I think that that is something that's really needed about now. I understand they gave KCP the starting money. Bruce Brown got the contract after that. That was a little bit less. But I have always been a proponent of a merit based society. You get what you earn. I don't care what you're paid. I don't care what your paycheck says, how many more zeros you have than the next guy. If the next guy is better than you, if he does things that you can't or won't do, then you got to give it to that guy. And Brown has been as consistent as you can get, especially coming off the bench. And I think that that will only blossom into more if you do that for him in starting role. And then when you get into the playoffs, because he has shown in the playoffs, he's a different animal. I know KCP has had that moment, but Brown has had multiple moments.
Definitely.
Oh,
How much does it have to do with money? Because if KCP was not making as much as he's making, will the Nuggets even be willing to even, give him the minutes compared to Bruce Brown? Bruce Brown's making how much? About 5-10 million less than Caldwell Pope,
it's roughly
and he's
somewhere around
doing
there.
what about as much damage on the floor, getting paid less.
Yep. Yes. And that's exactly where I'm at. Is like it does not matter. The disparity in pay should not matter. Unfortunately, it usually does, as I think that's what we've seen. It's why they have kind of just given him slightly more minutes because it's never been like KCP's getting 35 minutes or so, and Brown's only getting like 15. It's always been consistently both of them somewhere in the 20s. It's fluctuated a little bit, but for the majority of the time, KCP's got the lion's share. But as much as we do constantly, I do believe he's still, I'm never going to go as far as take him completely out of the playoff rotation because he is a guy that has proven over the time in the league that he is a consistent performer, especially in the playoffs. So you definitely want him in there. But I am at the point where I can't trust him to get anything other than triple singles every single night. It's getting frustrating at this point. And even with Bruce Brown, if he gets a triple single, he's making an impact, a noticeable impact to a winning game. And that's really the most you can ask for in your fifth guy in the NBA. I don't know why some people think that, those guys have to score 30 or 40 a night when they don't. The fifth best guy on your roster just needs to be a consistent performer that plays really good defense. And that's what Bruce Brown does. And just give him the job already. I don't know what else the guy has to do at this point. He's been so good for so long, all season, so consistent, has been durable, really hasn't had any injuries of note, any lengthy time off or anything of that nature. And he never seems to need a night off just for rest. He just always seems to be at notch 11 on the Richter scale. It's insane to see how much energy he has, even at this point in the season. It just doesn't seem like there's an end to it. So tap into it. Bring that to the starting lineup, and then let KCP find his legs off the bench.
Who would you rather have right now, KCP or Will Barton? And so Will Barton was with
KCP.
Toronto.
Yeah, I did. But yeah, for me, it's KCP because at least the thing that I can give KCP over Will Barton is that when KCP's shot is struggling, he doesn't typically just keep jacking up shots, hoping that it goes in. That was Will Barton's biggest bugaboo to me is that he would never recognize he's having an off night. Like you always have to have that balance. Like, yes, you want to hit enough shots to try and see if you can correct what's going on. Go ahead.
You gotta love the confidence. You gotta love the confidence. Just but if the execution is not
Yes,
there, that's always with the
exactly.
bugaboo with freaking Will Barton.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's the like I said, just the simple recognition that you're having an off night. So how about you take a step back and find one of your teammates that's having a good night or even a great night possibly, and just feed that guy and help facilitate and create for him. And that was the one thing I never saw with Will. It was always about Will the thrill. It was about him trying to create a thrill. It was just him and nobody else on the court. It was like he wanted to be Allen Iverson without being Allen Iverson. It's like you got to be able to understand where your skill set lies and that you're going to
Yeah.
have off nights. And when you
You want to be
do,
Kobe. You want to be Kobe.
there you go. That's probably where his mindset was, is that that's the kind of confidence he had. And
He
again, you have to admire it, but at the same time,
he was
you
a
got to be
Kobe
able to
going
swallow your
alcoholic.
ego. Yeah, exactly. You got to be able to swallow your ego when it's necessary, and give it off to your teammates. So as much as we want to concentrate about KCP, I think he belongs in the rotation. But one guy that I'm really starting to question about whether or not he should be in the rotation at all is Thomas Bryant. A lot of tantalizing things with the big kid, but there's just something about him is like, I swear he refuses to understand that he's a 7-foot monster.
And he's like, but he can stretch the floor. I think that's the one main flaw is he does look like a big, strong guy, but guys like Giannis and Embiid overpower him easily before backup to back up
Yes.
Nikola. You know who I was noticing through this last 10 game stretch when the Nuggets played the Knicks and the backup center for the Knicks, Isaiah Hartenstein. He's like
Right?
Jokic, like everything about him is Jokic. So you need a guy to back up Jokic. You need someone like Hartenstein, someone who you saying you didn't get a triple single, who will
Funny
fill up at least
enough.
a stat sheet for rebounds and assists. But you look at the plus and minus, and if they're getting 30 plus minus, I mean, you're affecting the game in ways that doesn't show in the other parts of the box score. And so Thomas
Hmm.
Bryant is a guy who you see on a nightly basis be on the minus side of a plus minus. You usually see
Yes.
him -5, -7, and he just needs to be more of a fundamentally sounded player. Much how DeAndre Jordan is. DeAndre Jordan, he can't really score the ball outside of 5 feet, but outside of the perimeter, he's setting players up, for picks and handoffs, uh, facilitating the game in the way a big man could. I want to see more of that from Thomas Bryant, trying to facilitate as a big man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think that's part of his game, but I agree with you. I think that him being so much of a stretch five, so athletic at 7 foot, that sometimes that's what kind of tricks him into believing he's a smaller guy. Is like, you really shouldn't be as smooth as he is at 7 foot. Like, he doesn't move like a 7 footer. Jokic, he kind of runs like a 7 footer. As much as we love him, he does not look like the most athletic dude out there. Like, it doesn't look like he should be out there running, but he just makes it work. Um, Thomas Bryant, he's kind of like the antithesis of that. Like, he looks smooth when he's running. He looks smooth when he's under the basket and doing things. And I think that just kind of lends it to that fact of just like him not wanting to be as physical as he could be. I think if he took that Dwight Howard step of just getting jacked and getting nasty, just that nasty mindset, I think that could turn the corner for him. And maybe that's in the cards for him as he goes forward. But as of right now, I do not want to see him in the rotation in the playoffs. I would much rather go with a bit of a smaller lineup in my bench with like a Jeff Green or a Zeke Najee as my center than risk it with Thomas Bryant. And if I had to, I would pull a DeAndre Jordan off of the bench before I did Thomas Bryant at this point.
Yeah, DeAndre Jordan,
But
how old is he? Like 34, 35.
oh yeah,
So
yeah, he's in his mid to late 30s.
he's not gonna be able to give you minutes on a nightly basis. So Najee need to come back soon because that's who I'm rocking with instead of
But no,
Thomas Bryant. I think Najee at least gives you some kind of length and more
yes,
effort. I don't want to
and that's
question
been the beauty,
Thomas Bryant's effort, but
right?
at the same time, if I'm going to compare him to Zeke Najee and Thomas Bryant, I know there's more. But when healthy, Zeke Najee gives him much more effort.
Oh yeah, much more production. I would definitely go with production. Like, I don't ever really see an effort problem with Thomas Bryant. Like, it's never been like I've just been like seeing him like jog up the court after missing a shot or anything of that nature that concerns me, like character wise. Like, say the guy he was essentially traded for in like Bones Highland, that would mope on the court or something like that. It's more just about the fact that he's just not producing. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that he's just not physical enough. Because at times when he gets physical, when he gets when he gets angry, like it reminds me of a young Jamal Murray of when like he would start getting bullied and bodied by players, and finally he would get to the point of snapping. Like they would mess with them until he finally snap and then get angry, and then all of a sudden he'd start balling out. And I think that's a big thing with Thomas Bryant is that he just kind of plays like that ho hum teddy bear kind of guy. And he just really, like I said, he needs to get that more of that Dwight Howard menace type of mentality. And I think that'll take him to the next step. I just don't think he's going to do it now, and I don't think he's going to do it in the playoffs. I don't want that risk. Keep him away. But speaking of playoffs, two potential playoff uh, opponents, even if they get to that point, but at least are going to make some deep runs and at least some noise in the playoffs are the Nuggets and the Knicks. I'm sorry. Yeah, I just completely skipped over a game. I apologize, guys. I'm having a bad night. I apologize. I'm going to get my stuff together. I apologize. But anyway, sorry. The next game up on the docket, Nuggets, Pistons. This was one I was worried about being a trap game, but it was the game that they needed. It was the game that the Nuggets finally just put it all together, got nasty. It didn't look good. It wasn't the greatest looking game, especially at halftime. But by the time the fourth quarter came around, the Nuggets clicked it on, won this game handily against the Pistons in Detroit. How does this team cure their slow starts? Like, how do they come out of the gate the way that they exited?
You remember Tim Tebow? I mean, of course, everyone remembers Tim Tebow, Tebow mania. And you remember those Broncos games where the first three quarters would be atrocious. There's nothing to watch. It's disgusting football. And then the fourth quarter automatically just come, muster up a crazy comeback. That's what the Nuggets versus Pistons was. It was just no basketball you wanted to watch. This is the worst team in the NBA. Essentially, it's either the Pistons or the Rockets are the worst team in the NBA record wise.
Pretty much.
And you're playing them in the Motor City, and they're pretty much neck and neck with you. A team that's banged up. They have no Cade Cunningham, traded Sadiq Bey. A lot of their guys are gone. They got James Wiseman as their starting center. And you're playing them, I think, 91-91 going into the fourth.
Mm-hmm.
But out of nowhere, you with that fourth quarter explosion, which was, something that thank God I tuned in at the right time because I was just score watching, checking the whatever. And then finally, the fourth quarter is when I actually sat down and watched the game, and it was just I couldn't imagine what the first three quarters could even look as close to what the fourth quarter looked like. It was just a complete offense with this team is an epitome of.
I agree. And there was a nice little stat line here. Murray got his fifth double double of the season. They're all with points and assists. Does he need to move more into a true point guard role for this team to really hit its peak? Or should they keep with facilitating so much through Jokic?
Hold on, say that again. Had a water
Okay,
break.
that's all right.
Sorry.
Murray gets his fifth double double. They have all been points. All of his double doubles have been with points and assists. He has none with points and rebounds, etc. So does he need to start being more of a true point guard, or for the Nuggets to reach their peak, or can they keep uh, being the number one seed and the best team in the league by facilitating through Jokic?
Well, Jamal Murray is not a point guard by heart. He's those uh, Kyrie Irving, Steph Curry type of guards, the dual threat. He's not necessarily when he was playing in Kentucky in high school. Um, uh, he didn't play. He didn't run the offense and anything like that. He was just playing off the ball, coming off the screen, shooting. He's always been a shooter. He's been a shooting guard first. So the fact that he's getting double-digit assists just shows the development of what Jamal has become. And especially with a guy like Jokic, who's at least, if your team has, say, the Nuggets, at were they averaging around 25, 26 assists per night as a team? Jokic is taking up at least 10 of
Yes,
those, right? So that's
right.
already a lot of assists going to Jokic. Now, if you're getting a high number of assists yourself and Jamal, then you're doing something that is at least above expectation from a player of your skill type and what Jamal is a scoring type of dual threat who has established himself into someone who can run a true point guard type of image.
Right. Well, I agree with you. He is definitely not your quintessential point guard, and he never really has had to develop into one because of how good Jokic is at the five and doing what he has done, which no other five has ever done. So all those things being put into account, that the Nuggets have been winners and all that, I do believe that Murray. I don't want him to be like a Chris Paul type of point guard. I don't want that type, but I do believe that this team hits another level when Murray is not only scoring but also facilitating while scoring. There's just something about this team that I believe takes them to that true championship level when he's able to facilitate, because those are the nights that you see him, Jokic, Gordon, and MPJ all go for like 20. Those are the nights that you see the Nuggets score 130, 140. And it doesn't matter what their defense does. On those
You
nights
know,
that Murray
you know what
really
the
turns
crazy
into that
stat?
point guard, it just goes
The
crazy. Go
crazy,
ahead.
yeah, crazy stat. I was just thinking about this. The entire time we've had it, Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, uh, Michael Porter Jr. all on the roster. Nuggets have made playoff runs, small playoff runs at that. But Jokic technically has never played with another All Star. Does it baffle you to the fact that Jamal has never been named an All Star? MPJ, I know he's still young, he's been hurt, and so is Jamal. But MPJ has been named to an All Star game. Aaron Gordon is one who kind of makes me think like, really, this guy he has been at least named to one or two just because he is an exciting player, and everyone knows that the All Star game and All Star appearance or whatever that accolade is just a popularity contest.
Right.
Uh, does it baffle you though the fact that Jokic's dominance and he hasn't played with technically anyone, not one All Star, technically.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an insane. You're 100% correct. That's an insane thing to think about. Is that he's never been surrounded by quote unquote all stars, but yet still goes out there and does the things that he does. And to my point in this game, what I was saying is like you saw it in the box score this on in this game. You had Jokic score 30. You had the next leading scorer was actually the guy we just talked about needing to go to the bench. KCP had 20 points. You had Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon both go for 15, and Jamal Murray himself went for 19, and then the 10 assists. The, I don't know why it is, but whenever Murray is out there facilitating along with Jokic, because it wasn't like Jokic had an off night. He had a soundboard double. He had 30, 10, and 9. So he was one assist away from having a triple double himself.
Huh.
It's
Who said that?
on
Who
these
came up with that soundboard double? A soundboard
one
double. That's tight.
somebody at Altitude Sports. I want to say it was either Hastings or I want to say it was. I'm pretty sure it was Hastings. It was one. I'm pretty sure, but it might have been Mosier, but I'm pretty sure it was Hastings. It was one of the guys over there at Altitude Sports.
Soundboard double.
Um,
That's good. That's awesome.
yeah,
That's
it
awesome.
is. It is really good. Yeah. So that's what they did to classify his double doubles that were one either assist or rebound shy of a triple double. So
Come
on
on. I
these
mean, how many
nights,
games has he had like
those
that? Like he's
soundboard
at least
doubles,
had. He at least
it's
has.
been
Man, he
it's
has to at
over
least have the
30.
NBA record. He has to have the NBA record for that, for having uh one
I wouldn't
or
be
two
surprised.
statistics
Yeah,
short from
because
that,
he
man. Because it
has
always
almost
seems
as
like
many.
every night
Sorry,
seems
he
like
has
every
almost
night
as
that's
many as
either
those as triple doubles. Sorry, I was trying to get that in.
no, just seems like every night he gets the triple double, and if he's not getting the triple double, then he's getting what you say, those are the soundboard double. That's awesome. It has a name for it. That's all I'm always thinking it out.
Right,
Always wanted to
I got you.
have some type of name
Yeah, I've
for it.
always, I've always thought that was pretty clever too. For whoever came up with it, I give total credit to them, and it's definitely a really cool moniker. I guess is the best word to use for that. It's a great moniker for that. But yeah, he's got a lot.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if he does have the record because he's got almost as many, if not more, soundboard doubles as he does triple doubles. It happens constantly. Um, but speaking of consistency, unfortunately, the Nuggets have not been that lately. Very next game, Nuggets versus Knicks in Madison Square Garden. Was this a backslide or just New York being a better team on that night?
Mm, that was
I guess morning technically.
a game was it was an early game. The Nuggets, I think they got down by as many as 15 points early on at first, but stormed back. They actually had a
Mm-hmm.
28-point turnaround, being down by 15. Then they got a 13-point lead, and then it was might have been late third quarter, early fourth quarter where things just fell apart. I think the Nuggets only scored maybe like what, less than 45 points in the second half when they had scored 66 in the first. So you could tell the drop off. But I'll tell you the key of what it was, and it's similar with the Toronto Raptors. Actually, identical. It was the defensive play and the play of the other side of the Knicks' center,
100%.
Isaiah Hartenstein. And it's the guy who I said would be the perfect match made in heaven to back up Nikola Jokic. Just the way he affects the game,
And
being
he was at
what
one point.
and he was, yeah, he was with the Nuggets for about a year. Then they got rid of him. I think he went overseas. Um, maybe he got humbled, because I know last year he was with the Clippers, and that's what got him a nice little contract with the Knicks this year. So he is
Mhm.
an X factor game changer in ways that you would want that guy to be. He's a release the secret weapon type of player off the bench. And there's only a few of them in the league. Pirtle, Isaiah Hartenstein. I mean, of course, if you put Anthony Davis on Jokic, if he can stay healthy himself, then he can at least affect Jokic's game in some ways. Embiid, I don't know, not on possession by possession status. We'll see tonight. But there's only a few guys who can really compete by defending Nikola Jokic, and Isaiah Hartenstein is one of
Yeah, he's got the size and the athleticism and the strength that he can stay in the paint with Jokic. I agree. Mitchell Robinson, their starting center, did a really good
them.
job as well. I also give a lot of credit to that top three of the Knicks. As much as people want to try and downplay them, I mean, Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, and Jalen Brunson, they're about as good of a trio as you can get in this league, and a very complimentary one as well. You got a guy that can slash and hack and dunk on all of them. You got strong guys that are three level scorers, and they all just do a really good job of playing off each other. And it's really hard to figure out which guy to really defend because they all seem to be so efficient as well. So as much as I would like to just be like, oh, this is a backslide, the Nuggets just, were bad, blah, blah, blah. I want to give more credit to the Knicks in this game is that they came in with the mentality of we are the better team and they enforced their will. Outside of the second quarter, I believe, they won every other quarter. Yeah, they won the first quarter 36-28. They lost the second quarter to Denver 39-26. Then they won the third 29-24. And then the fourth at 25-19, and that was the biggest thing was just the the dog in New York that was able to hold again one of the best, if not the best, offenses in the league to 19 total points in the fourth quarter, in a quarter that the Nuggets have essentially owned on against every team this entire season. So as much as I would just like to wax it off and be like, oh, it was just a fluke or whatever. No, this Knicks team is for real. That 10-game winning streak really just kind of put them where they belong. I don't believe they are the best team in the East, but they are another very strong candidate in the East. I still believe that it's the Bucks and the Celtics and then everybody else after that, but the Knicks are knocking on that door to be added into that conversation, I believe.
Yeah, Julius Randle. Well, he's still young. It seems like he's been in the league for so long. Seems like maybe he's been in the
Right.
league, what,
Same thing with
eight,
Jokic and
nine
Murray.
years.
I think he's
He's
in that
still young.
same
He's like
conversation.
23,
Yeah.
like 20 something. And so that core is young. And would you have RJ Barrett, who's a young guy? And there was Emmanuel quickly. Did I tell you not that this guy looks just almost spit an image of Bones Highland, Emmanuel quickly. And if
He
that's
kind of
what
is.
Bones
Yeah.
really play style and even physical features, with the braids and everything and the skinny build, the
Yeah.
long width. Come on, man. He does a little bit. And it's kind of sad to see that's what Bones Highland could have been, an effective player off the bench. So It was a
Right.
combination of the New York Knicks, uh, Tom Thibodeau outcoaching Michael Malone in the second half, making better adjustments compared to using Knicks the New York's defense compared to Denver's offense. I mean, Denver only scored 42 points, and they've been one of the best, as you said, fourth quarter teams this season. So it was just a combination of just being on the road and having the Blues at the wrong time.
Yeah, yeah, I agree on that. And um, I really don't have any much more to add to that. So let's go ahead and move on over to the Nuggets and the Nets. Is like I said, I don't really want to call the Knicks game a backslide because this game was a show that they were not going to slide backwards. They came back, they got the sweep against the Nets, they ended up winning. It the fourth quarter probably wasn't exactly what you liked, but I think everything up until that point where the bench just kind of let the Nets back into it was a beautiful game to see. What was your favorite part of this win?
Of course,
Oh, okay.
MPJ, seeing the emergence of him scoring the the triple threat score that MPJ is, and what he showcased, and he showcased that he can be a lethal scorer at all levels. And it almost got lost out of the Nuggets' hands, but they ended up winning, and that's the mere factor to come down in the clutch.
Yes, it came down to the clutch. Nikola came back, had a triple double, an insane triple double, 22 points, 17 rebounds, and 10 assists to go along with an extra two steals. But another one of those nights that I was just talking about with Murray being a facilitator just seems to take this team to a whole nother level. He didn't get a double double this time, but he did have 8 assists to go along with his 25 points, which led to Nikola having that 22 points. Michael Porter Jr. actually led all scorers in this game with 28 points, and Gordon chipped in 10, 4, and 2 of his own, while KCP just kind of hung out over in the corner, hit a couple of threes, and pitched in 8 points himself. The bench really didn't do much. That was my biggest worry about this game is this bench has really, really got to get their ish together. If this Nuggets team wants to win a championship this year, Bruce Brown, Jeff Green, Zeke Naji, and company have got to contribute. And when you're given a 30-point lead in the fourth quarter, your starters should not have to see the court again. And unfortunately, that's the case of what happened in this game. They were handed an almost 30-point lead, but yet the starters still had to finish out the last 5 minutes of the game because they allowed the Nets to bring it within a 4-point score to almost come all the way back. So starters, great. I think that they're hitting their stride at the perfect time. Now we need the bench to follow suit. Uh-oh. We lost Santiago. I apologize, guys. He's been having some technical issues. If y'all haven't noticed, there's been a bit of a delay and things. So we've been trying to fight through it. But unfortunately, it looks like he's having some technical. I'll bring him back in if he's able to come back, but he's having some technical difficulties. So I apologize. Let's go ahead and move on here. Move on to the Nuggets and the Wizards. The Nuggets were able to get their back-to-back winning back together, I guess you could say at this point. It was their first back-to-back win in over 2 weeks. So it was nice to see the Nuggets not only come back when it comes to rebounding from the loss to the Knicks and winning against the Nets, but also to extend that and also beat a struggling Wizards team after a couple of days rest. And I think these couple of days rest are going to be coming in very, very crucial as we move forward, looking into next week where they have their final back-to-back of the season. So these only 3 games this week, I think, are going to prove crucial going forward, plus the 3-game road or home stand that the Nuggets are about to go through starting tonight. But the Nuggets were able to pull out a 118-104 victory. It was another one that you saw the starters go out and dominate for 3 quarters. Then in the fourth quarter, the bench kind of let the Wizards get back into it, which caused the Nuggets to have to play their starters a bit more than you would like. So again, another reason why so few games this week are going to be crucial. The starters have had to play a lot more minutes this week than they should have in these two victories. You had Aaron Gordon pitch in 12 points. Michael Porter Jr. had another night with 21 points. Jokic had another double-double, 31 points, 12 rebounds. And again, another night where Jamal Murray had an almost double-double, 17 points and 8 rebounds. Again, another night of just pure efficiency. The bench showed up against the Wizards as well. You had Bruce Brown hit 14 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks. Jeff Green had 11 points. Thomas Bryant even pitched in a little bit with 4 points and a rebound. So this is a much more all-around victory, and the Nuggets really kind of getting all of their pistons firing at once. Unfortunately, they haven't done it enough consistently over the last couple of weeks, but hopefully going forward, getting some time at home. And they still have a winning record. As much consternation as people have had about their losses over the last couple of weeks and how they've played on the road lately, they are still one of only 3 teams with a winning record on the road. So as much as people want to talk about this Nuggets struggling on the road, they do it better than almost any other team in the league, and then also have the most dominant home record in the entire league to go along with that, which is the reason why they are the number 1 seed in the West. Let me just check. Oh, he's not back yet. So I just want to check and make sure Santiago wasn't just sitting there staring off into the ether, not knowing what's going on. So moving on to the next point here. We had talked about a little bit about it earlier. Zeke Naji coming back. These last 2 games have seen the bench's efficiency almost triple. They've went their scoring efficiency, their defensive efficiency, I mean, just across the board has either doubled, in some aspects even tripled. The differentiation between when Zeke and Christian Brown, that is, are on the court to when they are not is noticeable. It's a marked difference on how the bench plays when Zeke and Christian are not part of that rotation. And I do believe that going forward, this is the best reserve 5, in my opinion. I'm going to do this now without any rebuttal from anybody because I don't have anybody here to rebut me. But to me, the best 5 coming off the bench are Bruce Brown, Vlatko Čančar, Christian Brown, Zeke Naji, and Dunkel Jeff. I believe that is your best backup 5 with Zeke at the 5 and Dunkel Jeff at the 4. When you're talking about the big guys, it is a bit of a smaller lineup. It might be able to be taken advantage of by some other bigger benches, but there's not really many out there. And I think that their athleticism will outweigh any type of size disadvantage they may have. And it's not that much. It's not like Zeke is short or Dunkel Jeff. Both of those guys are above 6'10". So neither one of them have any issue with guarding up against some of the bigger guys. They're not good. Obviously, you don't want them going up against guys like Joel Embiid or Giannis Antetokounmpo or something like that, but they shouldn't be. If those guys are guarding those MVP types, something has went terribly wrong, and the least of the worries in Denver are that of who's on the bench. Because at that point, that means that a lot of bad things have happened. I'm not even going to say them and put them in the ether because they're that terrible. I'm just going to say a lot of bad things would happen if it is that Zeke's out there getting starter minutes of any capacity. Not saying that he might not develop into a starter, but at this point, I think he is a quintessential perfect bench player, and he fits his role and fills it extremely well, and they need to get him more minutes. So 45, since I've already lost Santiago, that's really all the games going back. Let's go ahead and preview the game tonight real quick. And then I will go ahead and move on and get myself ready for the mock draft and set up everything here. And hopefully he will be back when we get ready to do the mock draft. So the game tonight, get my stuff resituated here. So tonight you have the Sixers coming, we have the Bucks tonight. The Bucks and the Sixers are coming up. These 2 games, I do believe, are going to be what seals the deal. It shouldn't be. I will preface it with that. This shouldn't be what decides the MVP race, but it seems that some folks, we won't name who, have this predisposition that they have got to find some way to deny Nikola Jokic his third straight MVP. So tonight you will see him going up against Giannis Antetokounmpo, the number 2 leading, I guess, at this point, because it seems to be flip-flopping between Embiid and Giannis on who is really the contender to beat Jokic. To me, if you can't decide who's better than him, then how is anyone better than him? But I digress. We won't go down there. But tonight you're going to see them going head-to-head in Denver. So it's going to be seeing, can Giannis handle the elevation, which is not too drastic for him because he is coming from Milwaukee, but they're still nowhere near when it comes to the elevation. So there is that to be put into consideration. But I don't think it should be too big of a deal, as Giannis is a very fit and young man. This is going to be a barn burner. Both teams are going to have to bring their defense because both teams can score at all 3 levels and can do it very quickly. They are both very fast-paced, upbeat teams that love to score in transition. So whichever team is able to cause the other team to have more turnovers, I believe is going to be the difference. So today, in just 15 minutes, as I see here, you will see whether or not I am correct. But I do believe that turnovers are going to be the difference in this game. As much as you might want to point to all the other fancy stats and things that end up on triple-double watches and things of that nature, turnovers are going to be crucial. That's been one of the biggest issues the Nuggets have had this season, has been when they get in trouble, they turn the ball over. When they dribble too often, when they try to get too fancy, when they're not playing team basketball is when things go bad. As long as the Nuggets come out, they play complementary team basketball. Murray's facilitating, Jokic is facilitating, KCP and MPJ are hitting their shots, Aaron Gordon's tearing up the paint and hitting a few from 3, the Nuggets will come out with a victory. If they do not, and they don't come out with absolute fire in their blood from the opening tip-off, this Buck squad not only is very good, they are battle-tested, and they are championship-tested. This team has actually went and won it all. And their number 1 guy from that team is still their number 1 guy. So they know what they're doing, they know how to win, and they know how to be consistent performers. So if the Nuggets don't come out and match that energy, it is going to be a very ugly night. And it's going to be another one that we don't see Jokic in the fourth quarter, not because the Nuggets are up by 30, but because they're down by 30, maybe even 40. I do believe the Nuggets have corrected a lot of the mistakes that they have been making over the last couple of weeks. I think they've gotten much better at getting back to team basketball. They've stopped pressing. They've started hitting their shots again. They started taking the good shot and stopped passing up the good shot to try and take a great shot that they never find. They've been getting and taking the good shots, and as long as they do that tonight against the Bucks at home, they should come out with a victory. And so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to say it now. I think the Nuggets do win tonight, and they will win by, I think it'll be close. I think it's going to be something like 125, 122, or like 118, 115, somewhere in that range. And it could be that big of a range. It could even be less depending on how well both these teams play defense, because they are, when they are both on, 2 of the better defensive teams in the league, especially when it comes to efficiency-wise. So this could be just a hard-fought 105-100 game, but it could as easily be a 125-120 game. It's just that type of a game. So trying to pick a score is almost fruitless. I would take the over. If you're a betting person, take the over. But we're not here to give that kind of advice. I'm just saying there's going to be plenty of scoring, but also plenty of defense. So that is my take on the Bucks. Let me double check and make sure Santiago hasn't snuck back in here. He has snuck back in here. Boom.
Hey,
So I'll let you give your
no,
prediction real quick.
Yeah, my bad.
I don't know.
Everything kind of went out on me. real quick.
Oh no,
Uh,
you're good. I told like, hey man, technical difficulties, things happen. But I just gave my prediction for the Bucks and the Nuggets tonight. I said the Nuggets would win by a close score, but it could be anywhere from like
it's the Bucks.
105,
It's
100
the
to
Bucks, not the
125,
Sixers.
120. It's the Bucks tonight. Yeah,
I thought they played the
I'm
Sixers.
pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah, Saturday, March 25th,
Um,
Bucks. They play the Sixers
is it a
next.
primetime game?
The
I know they've
next
been doing
game.
the Saturday primetime NBA game.
It's the game starts in 11 minutes.
I know it was a couple. Yeah, so I'll be watching that. I mean, before definitely the show starts. The mock draft. But
Yeah,
that's gonna be a good test these next couple of games. The Bucks, Sixers, and this is playoff atmosphere basketball. And I think this is the perfect timing to have it right there when you would think that the first place in Western Conference is essentially locked up. But as mediocre as the Nuggets have played these last couple of weeks, the Kings being down what 4 games, I believe, Grizzlies 4 games now. I know you would think that the Nuggets should lock this out. If the Nuggets aren't able to lock up a first seed and let one of these teams come back, should they even be? What would you say? Even is that when we all panic? This is the
I
time
mean,
right
if they don't
now
go
to prove
in,
that you
yeah, if
can
they
beat
don't
these
go into
teams.
the, yeah, they don't go into the playoffs as the number one seed, then there's going to be some serious problems in Denver because they are so reliant on home court
I
advantage.
can,
Yeah, if they have to go on the road
I see that.
and yeah. Oh, you muted yourself. Maybe not.
No, I can see that. Uh, my bad. Just like you said, train of thought. That stuff happens. No, but I can see that being a big problem. How many games? Like 10 games left in the regular season. Nuggets should be able to lock
I think
this
it's
up in the
less
next
than that.
5 to 6 games.
Yeah, yeah, they definitely got to turn it
Yeah,
on.
this is so right now you'll be playing some tough teams come playoff time. This is the ultimate test. Playoff atmosphere basketball. I know Milwaukee and Philadelphia are not in the same conference, but it's the same type of caliber type of team that you would need to be playing on the road to an NBA championship. So this is definitely a big test to see where the Nuggets are, and you can see it as a 2 game series. 'Cause these are two of the teams that will either one of them I think will be representing the East uh, in the finals. That or the Celtics. But I don't know. I think the Celtics got, I want to say lucky last year, but their chances last year and they blew it. We'll see what happens, but this is definitely a playoff atmosphere battle,
Yeah,
and I'm taking
I
Denver to win this.
go ahead. Yeah, I'll take it a step further. This could
No, I'm
be
taking
a
them to win this,
finals
man.
preview. Yeah, this could be a finals preview.
Oh
Honestly,
man,
this could be exactly what we're going to see at the end of the season. Both of these teams are the best in their conference. I don't think that could really be debated at this point. I know a lot of people want to talk about the Celtics and Sixers over in the East, but there's really nobody. I mean, as much as people want to talk about the last couple of weeks, like I think that the last 4 to 5 months means more than the last 4 to 5 games. Like I just call me crazy, but to me that just speaks more of a volume to what the Nuggets are than just a small sample size where again, I believe they just got bored. That they were just so good for so long and they've been in first place for so long that they just got complacent and it came back and it bit him in the butt. And I think it came at the perfect time. Like I said before, when this whole thing just really kind of started, like if you're going to have a moment like this, you want it to happen now than a month from now. Because if it happens a month from now, your season's over. Right now, as you see, they're still the number one seed. Despite everything, they are still the number one seed. So I will take it there. I will say this could be a definite finals preview. I don't see another team being able to knock off the Nuggets at this point in a 7 game series. If it was 1, 2, 3 games, maybe. But in a 7 game series with home court advantage, I don't see a team in the West that could knock the Nuggets off. Now in the East,
Yeah.
there's a chance
Before
the
this
Celtics and
bad
Sixers might knock off the best team, but I don't think that that's going to happen. But that's just my opinion.
before this bad stretch of what would you say the last 10 games of what we've seen from the Nuggets. I mean, I won't say it's been the worst because the offense has made up for it. But before that, you would essentially, I was getting the feeling the same we got with the Colorado Avalanche last year when they were just killing everybody in the regular season, and everyone was saying, "Oh, they choke in that second round or that third round," and this this team is different. To be watching this team night in and night out, that's why the national media is just so funny because they're obviously not watching the Nuggets night game after game and seeing what this team is special and it's different than the last couple of years. The Nuggets just give you that type of feeling that the Colorado Avalanche gave you last year before that bad stretch of games. That was the feeling. Now I wouldn't say it's the same. It's cooled down a little bit. The Avs, they were able to live up with the hype and just ride through it, and they one of the best playoff performances I think in NHL history with it like 16-4. They were just nuts. And every time they lost, it seemed like freaking it was the end of the world. But the Nuggets, it's going to be a tougher road to the finals. But they do give you that little vibe and that little feeling that this team is different compared to teams of the last 3 to 2 years, especially with the biggest factor was the injury bug.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's a good place to end it here because we have another show coming up in about 20 minutes. So we have been here for an hour. We hope y'all enjoyed it. We did enjoy y'all coming through. We appreciate it as always. Make sure you're going down, hitting the subscribe button if you haven't already. Make sure you hit the like button and the bell notifications if you don't already have those turned on. So that way you're notified every time that we go live or post content, as we are going to go live again in just 20 minutes doing my first mock draft of the offseason, post free agency, and post combine, and all that good stuff. We'll be back here again talking Nuggets next week, as usual. Should be Saturday around 6 p.m. Make sure you're here for that. We'll recap all the games that are coming up, little road trip or homestand, I should say, that's coming up for the Nuggets. We'll recap all of that. Then we'll have all kinds of other fun during the week. We got Breaking Broncos on Monday. Let's Get Answers on Tuesday with me on the Let's Talk Sports Network. So always bringing you content, plus all kinds of articles that'll be fluttering through on theanswers42media.net. All of the links that we have mentioned are down in the description. Make sure you go ahead and give our boy Santiago some love over on Twitter at Amato_is_Ballin. Make sure you give him some likes and Twitter subscribes and all that good junk. And then again, just come back here, 20 minutes, me, Santiago, we're here, and we're going to talk Broncos and the NFL draft. So as always, we appreciate you.
You should
For
do
the
it.
answer is 42. Don't question the blue.